All right. So, the hard problem of consciousness, as far as I can figure it, is how is it that the sense of self, the I, how does that arise? Basically, how is it that humans have this sense of a separately existing self, individual, apart from everyone else, but that there's an I, there's some sort of something other than just the body. So, how does this arise? Well, the first problem in the hard problem of consciousness is the word consciousness itself. It's so uncertain what that word means when someone says it. There isn't an agreed upon definition for what consciousness even is. So that's half of the problem why none of these theories ever get anywhere about the hard problem, is because of the language, and we don't even know really what we're talking about. So I'm going to submit that, okay, first of all, and this is really the crux of the whole matter, is that there is, and there has to be, if you think of this reasonably, I think, that every phenomenon that is experienced, all of it, every single one that can be defined as an experience, defined as something, requires a frame of reference for it to arise upon. When you write the number one on a page, the page is there as the frame of reference on which to put the one, for the one to arise upon. So when you think the number one, well, what is that page upon which that one arose? Well, it's awareness. All right? So the frame of reference for all phenomenon, whether it's a thought or a thing, a thought, the voice in your head, whether it's the voice in your head or whether it's a sensation, taste, the five, it all requires, it is all experienced upon the backdrop, if you will, of the awareness. But if you haven't made contact and are aware of the awareness, then what happens is that you take the thing, that you take the experience to be fundamental then. If you don't recognize the frame of reference upon which everything else is arising, then you don't know what the reality is, and that's what the search is. That's what the question arises. What is, the hard problem of consciousness arises within people who haven't made contact or are aware of their own awareness, of the frame of reference. So the problem then with the word consciousness is that when people say conscious, they are referring to while someone is sleeping in dreamless sleep, they are not conscious of the world, right? So you could say that there isn't consciousness within sleep. Now, does that make sense? And if consciousness is the ground of being, and that is all that everything is then in dreamless sleep, one would cease to exist, because if consciousness is all there is, and that's the fundamental substance of reality, and in dreamless sleep you say that one is not conscious of the world and that there is therefore no consciousness there, well then there's no self there either, is there? So that's a problem in my view. So in my model, and this works, if people just adopt this model, then we could stop talking about what consciousness is, which just derails the whole thing, the whole inquiry off the start. Is just, well, you're just stuck on what consciousness is. So in my model, awareness is that stillness upon which everything that arises upon. Okay, so awareness is the fundamental substrate of the world, of reality. It's ultimate reality. It's awareness. And consciousness is awareness of something. Okay, so it clears it up, in my opinion, because consciousness then is awareness of thoughts and sensations. So in dreamless sleep, there is awareness, but it's just awareness of the backdrop. It's just the awareness, right? It's not even awareness of anything. So awareness can abide because it is the absolute fundamental reality, absolute being, meaning that it's not relative to anything. So, and consciousness is awareness of something. So that's why in dreamless sleep, there's no world, is there? And another thing that we have to recognize is that first person perspective is the only one. All other perspectives are made up, right? Have you ever experienced anything other than first person perspective? Well, obviously not. So first person perspective is the only one that there is. So in dreamless sleep, there is no world and there is no time. So one could say there's no consciousness, and that's fine in my model because there's still awareness. So it's every day this is proven in the circadian rhythm, is that the self, the awareness, is more fundamental than the world. There's no time, there's no world in the dreamless sleep state, and yet you exist. So the world does not exist, time does not exist, space and time do not exist in dreamless sleep. From first person perspective, the only one that exists. And yet you do. So it's just the frame of reference with no reference. It's just not referring to anything but itself. So anyone who really is seeking conclusion to the question, the problem of the hard problem of consciousness, then you need to find the frame of reference. You need to now, if that's too much, well then fuck you. You'll never know. It's to the point where it's like I keep showing over and over and over and over the answer because it's an experience. It's a knowing that comes from experience. It's not a knowing that comes from some sort of equation or something you've been taught in school. Okay? So the I arises within thought. It's that simple. Thought, the voice in your head, is that which projects the illusion that there's a separately existing individual self. It's that simple. It's not firings of neurons in the brain. What is the frame of reference upon which those neurons are firing? If you can see even on a machine or a display somewhere, neurons firing and then some sort of correlation, all that process, the whole thing, all of it that's going on within the scientist's awareness, what is that upon which all of that is occurring? The thesis, the experiment, the conclusion, all the blah 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 about it, upon which, what is it that all of that is occurring upon and being witnessed by? And you can't get there via thought, because thought is one of the exterior things that one can be aware of. So it's just another appearance on the frame of reference. So the answer, if you're actually sincere about finding the answer to the hard problem of consciousness, you must find that from which all arises from and passes to. You must find that which does not change, and it's here all the time. So you need to do that. You can't think your way to it.